Let's get right into the propaganda. That's my Keemstar impersonation. Is it good? Did you guys like it? Because that's kind of what started this whole mess here, is Keemstar propaganda. So I came across this. This is from Def Noodles. A lot of you guys have like a problem with Def Noodles. He seems fine to me. It's internet drama. Like you guys have rather high expectations, I feel like, for some of these people. Anyway, came across this from Def Noodles, and Carson has just tweeted 2 days ago now, but I was on a bit of a hiatus, that he says, give me a little bit longer. So he's been gone for like 6 months, which is crazy, man. Imagine being able to take like a 6-month break and be financially stable. If only. Am I right, guys? Am I right? Anyway, for those of you who don't know Carson or what happened, because I didn't know what happened when this whole thing first started, is Keemstar came out with a video declaring that Carson was interacting with a minor. Now, I remember watching the whatever it's called, Drama Alert episode on it, and of course Keemstar did his best to just provide no additional actual information that would be in support of Carson. For instance, the ages. That's a pretty big one, I feel like. He danced around it. He intentionally avoided saying the ages, which is a really big problem, right? Because the reality is when you hear something like that, like, oh, so-and-so interacted with a minor, what's the first thing that you think about? Well, you think about a 30-year-old man interacting with like a 13-year-old. That's what I go to first. I'm like, oh, that's terrible. The reality is, it was a 19-year-old and a 17-year-old. Right? That's it. Yeah, you think of EDP, but this is what happened. And you go, wow, what the fuck? Like, how did this happen? Are we being serious? And so when that information finally got pushed out, all of a sudden the narrative shifted, right? The narrative, this is what happens. The goalpost shifted. Because what happened is a bunch of people believed it. They're like, yeah, this is bad. Which, by the way, I don't know why you would listen to Keemstar of all people. Like, that's one of the things that really gets me going, is like, Keemstar is somebody who literally said, he like I think I forgot if it was Jake or Logan Paul. There was an accuser against him, and just because that there's an accusation doesn't make it true. But the accusation was that they got like assaulted in the mouth, and Keemstar's like, why don't you just close your mouth? He genuinely didn't understand why, if somebody was getting assaulted, why they couldn't just close their mouth. That's the dumbest fucking thing in the world. It's like a 38-year-old man or a 40-year-old man or something, late 30s, early 40s year old man who doesn't understand anything. It blows my mind, because I'm a 31-year-old man, and like, as an adult on the internet, you're supposed to know better than children. But instead, Keemstar allows his content, I guess, to be dictated by children. Anyway, what ended up happening is the goalpost was shifted by people on Twitter. They were like, well, okay, well, the age is appropriate, but the power dynamics, because big words make you right. So all of a sudden, it's the power dynamic argument. And yes, there is a power dynamic there. However, there's power dynamics everywhere. Somebody with more money has a power dynamic. Your parents have a power dynamic over you. Your teachers, police officers, your bosses, all these things are power dynamics. There's a power dynamic in every situation. And while a power dynamic really needs to exist for it to be abused, or it doesn't make all situations where there's a power dynamic present abusive. That would mean that everybody in the entire world was being abused by their parents, but it's not true. And so when you say, hey, there's a power dynamic involved because he's famous, that's true. So now you investigate that. You would ask, what does that mean? What that means is that if he ever leveraged his account against this person, that would be abuse. So if he ever said, hey, if you interact with me, I'll give you something, or if you don't interact with me, I'll hurt you in some way, that would have been abuse of a power dynamic. What he actually did was, it was a really cringy exchange. They did send inappropriate pictures to each other. But it was really cringy. Now you might say well, that's illegal. Sure. So give Carson, arrest him. I don't care about the picture thing. To be honest with you, I think that if it's perfectly legal for a 17-year-old and a 19-year-old to physically interact in real life, I don't really care about pictures being sent. I really just don't. And in fact, apparently there are states that are creating laws to protect people. So I don't really care about the image stuff. Even if it's legally wrong, morally, I don't see a problem with it. Because 17 and 19, it's perfectly legal for them to physically, interact. So why the fuck do I care about somebody sending their tits? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter as long as an adult, like an actual inappropriate age range adult is getting it. As long as they're not getting it, it doesn't really matter to me. But we shifted the power dynamic. And what's so crazy is that, like, if you believe the power dynamic argument, then you also have to believe that every single, like, rap and rock artist ever needs to go to jail. Because groupies, instantly, that's the power dynamic, right? So you have to be for arresting all of them, but you're not. Because this is online Twitter, and people just want to be offended. And people feel stupid that they were wrong in the first place, so now they feel like they wanted to cancel Carson. Also, his friends were terrible. They were like, yeah, what he did was really bad. Everybody just bowed down to cancel culture on YouTube. It's crazy. And yeah, another example is popular kids in high school. Right? If there's a popular girl in high school, she has a power dynamic over the nerds because, like, she's socially more popular. She has socially more power. The other nerd would fall in love with her faster and know who she was before she knew who he was. But if they dated, would you consider that abuse? No. It's crazy. I understand that at the end of the day, this girl wasn't deemed by the state or by the government to be non-consenting. So if she interacted with him, it's perfectly fine. If she regretted it, that's fine. People saying, well, she would be more encouraged to date him because he's famous. That's how everything works. Literally, people with more money, people who are famous, people who are talented, these are different things that people have that make them more attractive. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. So the fact that Carson is able to pull more tail because he's famous and rich, that's because he, based on our current society, for whatever reason, honestly, because it's weird, he's a Minecraft YouTuber, but he's just more valuable to society or more equitable when in a relationship setting. That's like the whole point. But I came across this and I read some of these and they're like really annoying. Like some of these are just very annoying, like messages. Like the people like, oh, disrespectfully, I don't want jail time. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine asking for jail time for somebody that was 19 talking to a 17-year-old? What? Like, that's nuts. That's crazy. Everybody's like, no, thank you. It's all these like people who cancel them. We really got everything we didn't ask for in 2021. There was one comment in particular. Everybody's come back after frenemies, maybe. There we go. This was the comment that really triggered me. Sorry for using that word. But really pissed me off. So you want somebody who abused his power dynamic with an underage fan and played 140 hours on a 45-minute video game with a 14-year-old girl getting sexually assaulted to come back. I wish people like you didn't exist. Unfortunately, you do. So, first of all, again, you see how there's no ages being said? Second of all, yes, he had like 140 hours on a video game that was like about like a young girl getting assaulted. I just want you guys to understand, this is coming from me as like somebody who like grew up as like an edgy gamer. There's not enough content for a 40-minute game. It's a 40-minute game, not 45 minutes. That's my understanding because I looked into it. There's not enough content in a 45-minute game, 40-minute, 45-minute, whatever, to play for 140 hours. Very clearly, he just left the game running on his Steam account. That's what you do. You load the game up and you walk away. It's supposed to be a joke. Now, is it gross and inappropriate? Yeah. Nowadays, especially. But back then, this is a dumb kid that just left it open because he thought it would be funny if his Steam profile showed that he had 140 hours on a really weird game. I mean, to be absolutely honest with you, I would imagine that an actual pedophile wouldn't do things like this because then it would just cause them to have more attention. Like, it doesn't even make sense. It's just so stupid. It's just so stupid. So, I just want to talk about that. Hopefully he comes back. I mean, I don't really know the kid. I think it was terrible that his friends just dogpiled him. They didn't actually do anything. They did everything for money. They took a bunch of, I mean, imagine they didn't fucking help their friend out. 19 and 17, like anybody, they're out. Only on Twitter, Only on Twitter. It's crazy. Only on fucking Twitter. And you know what else is like the worst thing about the Carson situation is that this is a person, like a lot of the cancellation on Carson was from himself. This is coming from my personal experience, is that like a lot of times you're more likely to get canceled by yourself from getting canceled than you are from getting canceled. I know it sounds weird, but you're more likely to get like emotionally canceled from the stress. Because it gets very stressful. Your content takes a dive. You're not feeling it. You want to be like more reclusive. You get upset. And Carson was somebody with mental health problems, where he talked about, you know, a lot of his issues, and his friends weren't there for him at all. It's crazy. It just blows my mind. It's just crazy. Hey everyone, if you liked that video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to follow my Twitch, Instagram, Twitter, Discord, and TikTok. All links are in the description. Also, check out my Patreon if you'd like to support me even more than you already do. Thank you so much, everyone. I love you all.